Oh man, welcome back, everybody. I know it's been a long time since we did one of these podcasts, and I am excited for this particular episode because waiting in the waiting room is the homie Lee Fields, and we're gonna have an amazing conversation today. I'm happy to be back. I'm back home from my trip in Kenya. We are promoting the Advancing Audio Masterclass, and we only have a month to go. So I will do some housekeeping before we bring our guest on. But first of all, you know what we always do when we get live. Just want to make sure you guys can hear me, make sure you can see me. I see a couple of you on Instagram, see a couple of you on YouTube and Facebook. So give me a thumbs up, a 100. Light up those emojis. Let me know that you got us live, and we will go ahead and start with the podcast today. So as soon as I get some emojis, I will move on. So check in YouTube. All right, I see you guys are in loud and clear. You say Instagram, we're looking good. Fire emojis. Fantastic. All right, great. So Bolu is here. Welcome, Bolu. Nice to see you as always. Thomas in Kenya, nice to see you all. Let's do some housekeeping real quick because I don't want to keep our guest waiting on this one. This is a very important podcast for us today. So first things first, the Advancing Audio Masterclass is on October 14th to 17th. I know it says 13th on your screen, and that's only because I'm in America and the time difference is weird on this website. But if you are in Kenya or you're planning to go to Kenya, tickets are available. You can see the prices right there. And the early bird special, which is 25,000 Kenya shillings, is only available until the end of this month. Once that goes away, you will pay 30,000 Kenya shillings. Now, this is all inclusive. I'd love to give you some more details. I'm going to do a video on that in the coming week to explain to you exactly what you're paying for. So basically, you're paying for all 4 days of the masterclass. You have breakfast included, lunch included, and afternoon tea, goodies and giveaways from all our partners and sponsors, and of course, mentorships from all our mentors and partners that are involved in this masterclass. So if you haven't got your tickets yet, please go get your tickets. And for those of you who are in Kenya, let me tell you something. A lot of people are buying tickets that are not even in Kenya. We have people who've bought tickets from Ghana. We have people who've bought tickets from Ethiopia, Tanzania, Uganda, Nigeria. Hey, Kenya, don't lose out, man. Tickets are limited. So go get your tickets as soon as you can. All right, moving on. So for those of you who are watching and are not in Kenya or anywhere else in the world and you'd like to support our mission, we are doing a public fundraiser to raise funds for our expenses. We have airfare and accommodation, which is one of our biggest expenses. Sponsors have given us many things in kind. Unfortunately, a lot of our sponsors have their budget set for the year, so they were not able to give us cash. So we are counting on you, our community, to help us out if you can. The QR code is on your screen. If you'd like to help our mission and donate, no matter the amount, we will take it and we will be extremely grateful for your help. All right, so without further ado, I'm ready to introduce our guest for today. He's a very, very special person in our industry. I'm actually getting to learn more about him, and we all will on this podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to the one, the only, Lee Fields. Lee, I got to get the applause in there and make some noise for you. You know what I mean? Welcome to the podcast, buddy. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, man, thanks for having me.
Thank you, man. Thanks for doing this for us. We were talking a little bit offline before we went live, that, man, look, I'm just an audio engineer. I don't really know what I'm doing with this online stuff, but it feels good. And I'm happy that we're able to kind of impact a community. So welcome to the podcast,
I don't
Lee.
have a clue what I'm doing either, and it would maybe appear that I do, but I do not.
Well, you're definitely doing a good job of making us look like you do. All right, Lee. So those of you, so for someone who doesn't know who Lee Fields is and doesn't really necessarily follow you online, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us kind of who you are and where you've come from and where you are today?
Yeah, I'll give you the 1 minute version, and you can, if there's something in there interesting, we can dig into it a little bit. But
Sounds good.
I'm an audio engineer. I'm from Tennessee originally. I currently live in California for a few more years. I'm moving back to Tennessee soon. I grew up a church kid. Like I was at the church all the time after school, did everything, played drums, bass guitar in church growing up in the South. And when it came time to go to college, I thought, you know what? I think I want to get on the technical side, and spent about 8 months in college and dropped out and got on a tour bus and started working for my buddy's band for $20 a day. They were an unsigned band, not on a record label. We were just playing coffee shops, and they had a bus, but it was like a 1974 coach bus. Took all the seats out, bolted couches down on the floor, and just stumbled my way through it, man. Like I had no idea what I was doing. I think months before that, I didn't know what an EQ was. Like, what do these numbers do? I didn't know that like bass, mids, and treble also correlated to numbers and frequencies. So I spent a number of years doing that, and then it's sink or swim, right? Like once you're out on the road, it's the school of hard knocks. It's combat audio every day, and you're fixing sound systems. And the right side of the room, the horns don't work, and the left side of the room, the mids don't work, and it was that kind of thing. But without that, I don't know that I would be doing what I'm doing. And then wanted to get off the road. Life happened, had some kids, and then found myself working at my cousin's church, and that was in Knoxville in about 2007. And then I was exposed to the church and all the technology, multi-site church and video streaming and just all the things. Like I had no idea. And then Twitter came out at the same time. And this is a big part of, I think, why I'm here is for the first time we were connected to other audio engineers and other musicians all over the world instantly.
Right.
And I just started getting connected with other churches and figuring out what they were doing, and using my own experiences, continuing to learn along the way. And then one thing led to another, and I'm, speaking at church tech conferences and Infocom and NAB and different things, and thought, like, I'm a bit of a disruptor. Like, I'm never happy with status quo at all, ever.
Yeah.
Let me turn my computer notifications off. That's annoying. Sorry.
All good. All good.
Do not disturb. And I thought, you know what? I want to do my own version of this. So I asked some buddies. I was like, hey, I've got this idea. You guys want to get together and do kind of like the anti-conference? Like, let's get people in a room and learn from each other and dig into stuff. And let's do it in a way that's not been done before. And that company was called MXU. It started off as events, and then it kept growing and growing. And we were doing events all over the world. We've done them in South Africa. We've done them in Europe. And I thought, we can either like stay on airplanes and do this all the time, or let's create an online product that churches can use and sign all their volunteers up. And it was originally made with churches in mind. And a few years after had that idea, I sold that company. It was successful, and now I'm kind of on to the next thing. So I still mix. I mix for a lot of like the bigger worship bands. I spent the last 2 years, I guess it's been a little longer than that now, with United. Done stuff with, I don't know, I hate to like the name drop thing, but kind of all of the big worship acts and big churches around the country. I've been fortunate to do that. Yeah.
Nice. That's beautiful. So I want to add something to your resume, and that's something that you just started along with a good buddy of the podcast, Brian True. And you're calling it Black Box. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, for ages, I've been asked by churches to help them solve problems. That was a new PA, or how to read, or a church wants to do a worship album. And I did that all on my own, just as little side hustles here and there. And then after I sold MXU, trying to figure out like, what do I want to do next? We had thousands of people on that app using it every single month. And I thought like that was a good way to like reach the masses. I want to like dig in and do some stuff on an individual level now and try that.
Yeah.
But then I started seeing all these other guys online gaining like a tremendous amount of influence. Like I'm never going to be the 40-year-old guy that wishes I was like the cool hip influencer, and like all these other guys were coming up behind me, Shep and Tyler and Brad and True. Well, True's about my age, so he's a little different. But I thought, like, let's circle these guys up. I've got some business acumen, and let me teach these guys how to grow their own platforms and how
Okay.
to take their influence. And sometimes you can take 1 + 1 and it doesn't equal 2, it can equal 10. And that's kind of what this was. It's like if we get everybody together, we can have more impact on these churches that are already asking people for help.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it's under the umbrella of a company, the additional resources that you get and can provide to churches, it just goes to the next level. And we've seen that already. Like we announced this company spring around NAB, and it's I don't want to say blown up, but yeah, I mean it's busier than we thought it was going to be. I
Wow.
knew it would be successful. Knew there were churches that would want to use us, but it's also it's a new product. It's a bit disruptive again. It's not a consultant. It's not an owner's rep. We don't sell gear and we don't install it. We're
Mm-hmm.
an advocate for the church to solve problems. So that can look like a lot of different things. But if a church has a new construction project, the architect generally has, a dozen consultants on that project.
Yep.
Anything from track to theater consultants for layout and backstage spaces and where's the bathrooms backstage go and how tall should the stage be and what do the angles of the seats need to be. The problem with that, those consultants work for the architect. The way they get paid a lot of times can be incentivized on the amount of money spent on. And
Mm-hmm.
all of us were in the trenches at churches, and the way we partner with the churches, whether they put a PV sound system in or a PK sound system in, it
Mm-hmm.
costs them the same to use, because I don't want us to be incentivized by having a church buy a bigger LED wall. Like, should we
Right.
go to 16-foot or 22-foot, Lee? Oh, get that 22-foot. That's another couple G's in my pocket. So I
Right.
didn't want
Right.
to do that. So the disruptive part of what we do is that we contract directly with the church. We get paid up front and it's a flat fee, so that no matter what about the project, we can give unbiased fiduciary feedback that we think is just going to benefit the church long term, and it has nothing to do with gear. We also don't take kickbacks, referrals, or do any kind of other deals with integration companies or manufacturers.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much everybody does that. So, like, as
Yeah.
soon as I launched the company, I had some manufacturers like, hey, let's set up a referral program for you guys. And they'll pay you. Sometimes you can get paid off just giving somebody the opportunity to quote something, which is crazy.
Wow.
But we
Okay.
just don't do that. Yeah. Yeah, man.
Yeah, like what you're, I mean, so I mix monitors at a church here in Atlanta, and what you're saying has kind of alleviated some of the frustrations I've had just being a monitor guy and not having any other control over anything else tech wise in the church, because we are on lock and key from the integrator. And it's a whole nother thing that I'm just now learning, that it's
Yeah.
crazy in the church world how
So that's
things
something that
work.
we offer is, it's like, how do you advertise a service where you're like integrator police?
Yeah.
Some of my closest friends own integration companies, and they own amazing integration companies. So let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. And I'm
Yeah.
not making a blanket statement over all integration companies. However, some are really bad, and some
Hmm.
of them take advantage of churches, just like an electrical contractor could, or a general contractor, or whatever trade. Bad things can happen and things can go south. So, because I've been in dozens of building projects, and all of our other guys work for some of them the largest churches in America and have done countless projects like this, we have a unique lens to look through to kind of that out, but also advocate for the church in a way that sometimes the church feels bad about. Like they don't want to be viewed in a negative light in a big
Hmm.
multi-million-dollar project or $100,000 project, where I can come in and say, hey, okay, vendor, this contract's on behalf of the church. So, like a lot of times, if church is going to do a big install, the integration company will send over a contract. Here's your payment terms, some liability and some insurance things. Here's
Hmm.
when we expect to be paid. We expect to be paid. You need to do X, Y, and Z when we reserve a lift. And if those things aren't done and we can't get the lift in, then you have to pay for that. That's all fair, right? That's no
Yep.
one's questioning any of that, and they get signed. Well, the church doesn't do a contract with the vendor, though. So what
Yeah.
happens after launch weekend and there's still 3 more days of work to be done? and the integrator leaves, and now your punch list 2 years later is still not done. You don't have all your drawings,
Mm-hmm.
and then you got a bad fiber line and you're trying to pull it and you don't know where it goes, but you know what I'm saying? Because that piece of the drawing never got turned in. That stuff happens. So we are doing agreements on the behalf of the church to make sure it doesn't happen. We can't just say because you signed it you have to do it, but honestly, we can put some financial penalties in there or withhold payments or things like that. So
Yeah.
if if the city of Atlanta builds another football stadium, which I'm sure they will, the integration company signs a contract with the city and
Mm-hmm.
they get penalized financially for not hitting certain markers. But it's like kind of frowned upon if the church does that. Like, I don't, so, and
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
shouldn't be. You know what I mean? So the church can use us as bad cop. They can. And I'm doing that right now on some projects where there's some weird stuff happening with vendors and integrators. But then they can also use us for the skills that we have of designing world-class PAs and
Mm-hmm.
video control layouts and video engineering and lighting design. And like we got some of the best guys in the world that are actually behind consoles. So that's another unique benefit. Some integrators, they're super smart and they're wicked good at infrastructure and detailed drawings. Sometimes there may not be someone on staff that's mixed 8,000 shows through thousands of different PAs and know what a vocal and a snare drum are going to do in a 2,000 seat room. And this, you know what I'm saying? So we offer that unique lens on the design process and the consultant side that just, when we pull a chair up to the table, it just strengthens the team. We want to like turn the team into the Avengers. You have the
Right.
client, the integration company, the general contractors, and us. It's like, that's pretty cool.
That is
Yeah,
pretty
so that's
cool.
kind of what we're doing right now.
So with all that, I mean, that's a huge task to take on, and I know it's something that you're passionate about. As I check for any questions that are coming in, guys, you can throw your questions in at any moment. We will be happy to answer your questions as we go along. What so in your if you can put a percentage to what you do with Black Box, with all this stuff that you're doing with the churches and integrators and all that stuff, versus your time mixing. And
Yeah.
are you 60/40, 70/30? And how do you keep your skills up if you're not mixing as much as you used to before?
Yeah, I think, I'm 41. I've been mixing for over 20 years. I definitely don't mix 150 shows a year like I
Mm-hmm.
used to. And I don't mix 45 weekends at church anymore.
Okay.
Um, but I do think if I don't stay up to date on technology and new products like that, that will not go well for me. But there's also something happens, I think, when you've been doing this a long time where it's not like once you ride a bike,
Yeah.
but there is a bit like there is some of that. So I think when you get to a certain skill level with anything, whether that's even like athletics, to some point, there's obviously some physical and biological dynamics there with athletes, but um, I don't think keeping the skill fresh at like 150, 200 shows a year
Mm-hmm.
equals the same amount of growth later in life. So, for example, like year 3 of touring, let's say I improved 25% that year in my skills. I'm just making a number up, but that's probably possible. It may have taken me 150 shows, 150 different venues, different types of gear, and just really digging in to get that 25%.
Mm-hmm.
For me to get 1 or 2% better, it may take me a full year. It just
I
takes
see.
so much more for a professional and someone who would be considered an expert to get just tiny, tiny bit better. But the discipline required to go through those exercises a lot is what I think is the difference maker, though. Like
Yeah.
if I'm mixing 200 shows a year and I'm not intentional about what I'm trying to learn, then you maybe just had 200 bad shows.
Yeah.
Just because you do the show doesn't mean you get better.
Mm.
I believe, like sports, I'm big on athletes and how they improve and how we can apply that to the arts. I do the exact same thing. So if I go to the golf course and I want to practice my a low 7-iron shot, I have to go to the driving range and I need to hit that shot a couple hundred times
Mm-hmm.
so that it becomes muscle memory. So now if I'm working on an electric guitar sound, I'm like dialing in how to treat electric guitars. I need to mic up as many different electric guitars as possible and put myself in as situations as possible so that when I'm encountered with one in real life, it's muscle memory.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. So I've been doing this since I was 19 years old. I have all that experience. So now to get a little bit better, a lot of times it'll be things like um, just thinking about the general RTA of a show mixed at 102 dB. I've just
Mm-hmm.
been thinking about that, what that means. For me, the exercise of that sometimes is like an hour conversation with my buddy Chris Raybold about it,
Mm-hmm.
or listening to multiple genres of music and like how it hits me and like what I think that feels like, or going to other concerts and kind of digesting that. And then I get behind a console and then I'm like, okay, let's get rid of the little ski slope a little and let's try a little more flat response at 100 dB and see what that feels like. So is that making sense what I'm saying? Like I feel
Yep.
like
Yep. It does.
with anything, and again, athletes, I'm so big on sports and the discipline of improving your skill with sports into what we do. I do think you can go through the journey. It needs to change, like how you develop your skills early on in the skill and how you develop it later in life needs to change.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. I guess a lot of your friends are starting to jump in on the chat. So let me see
Oh,
something.
cool.
Something real funny just came across the chat. Oh, Lee is an incredible drummer. I guess that's why his drums slap. Well, that's something I didn't know. I didn't know about you. That's
That's
interesting.
funny. I'm looking. I have my phone down here so I can see the Instagram audience. I know
Yeah.
George is an incredible drummer. So my drumming background is actually marching drums. So it's heavy
Oh, okay.
rudiment based. Yeah. So it's like it's all chops. Like if you put me behind a drum kit, I don't have good feel,
Yeah.
but I can still play some paradiddles. So
Nice.
like, but I think even coming from that type of drumming, I'm
Mm-hmm.
just so into drums. But also, it's like I think it's the easiest thing to make sound good,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people I think struggle with it. So there's probably some natural abilities there. Like I think like anybody, if you're gifted at what you do, I think part of that is there's just some natural ability there in your DNA, and
Yeah.
it can be nurture and nature in both. And I think some of it is God given, and it's just like, boom, I'm gonna bless this guy with some skills that just are unexplainable. Tiger
Mm-hmm.
Woods, right? Like, come on, like
Yeah.
again, athletes. You're gonna get tired of me talking about athletes, but I believe it. Painters, like whatever, Mozart. It's just undeniable that those people have gifts, but there's also something that's just like something's inside you. I feel that way a bit about drums. It's just like it
Yes.
just makes sense to me.
Yeah. I'm a drum. I don't want to say drum heavy mixer when I get a chance to mix front of house, but it just I naturally dive into the drums a lot more than anything else. And once I have that pocket with the drums and they're sounding good, everything else just kind of works around it
Yeah,
pretty well. I kind of want to shift gears as we wait for some questions to come in, and I want to talk about that what you mentioned briefly about your front of house experience and
yeah,
looking at your RTA and your readings and things like that. I've
yeah,
noticed in CCM, and I've been waiting to ask you this question for a while. A lot of the younger guys that are mixing CCM out there right now, in my personal experience, what I've heard at some concerts is their control over their about 2.5 to 5K is usually really tough for them, especially the plug-in heavy guys that are super heavy on plugins. I've seen instances where the system engineer and the front of house guy it's a push pull in that frequency range. What's been your experience going out there and seeing some of these guys mixing? And have you noticed anything like that out there?
I noticed a lot of things about this topic. um, I think. I mean, like, if you think about this at a high level, the the team on stage, whether that be singers, it could be a pastor in a church, it could be a band manager.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, they're putting someone behind the console to achieve a goal. And I believe that goal can be uh, a couple different things. It could be, I want this person behind the console because I value them to add to the experience, just like someone on stage is,
Mm-hmm.
and they're a part of the team, and what they bring to the table is a unique thing. Like, think about a drummer that has changed the DNA of a band, like Dave Matthews,
Mm.
right? Like Rush, like some of these iconic drummers that when they bring what they bring to the band, it's a part. You know what I'm saying? Like, it stamps the band.
Yeah.
Um, I think the front of house position can be that also. And to be quite honest, like, I don't go out and do stuff with bands anymore that it's not that, because I don't
Mm.
want to just be the other example of this would be like, we need someone to mix who won't mess it up, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, and that's legit. Like, if a newer band, or maybe people just don't know that the front of house guy is an artist and a creative and can bring that to the table. And it literally is like, everything's so technical and there's Cat 5 cables everywhere and network switches. Like, I need a nerd with some video game chops who understands music a little and can do things at the right time.
Yeah.
That would be probably that's an extreme version. I'm being pretty like harsh with it. Um, so what I'm getting to is, with CCM, I think that if the goal is, we want the mix to sound as good as it can, and if it can sound like the record, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's this thing right there. So a lot of guys that were mixing 5 or 6 years ago, I believe, couldn't figure out, and CCM changed from the more pop sound of CCM in the early 2000s, and then
Mm-hmm.
has now shifted to worship heavy textures and guitars,
Yeah.
um, detuned drums, that thing that we're currently in. That is a really hard transition as a mixer to figure out, because there's things you have to do on the console to achieve that sound.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think a lot of guys that were and were musicians are the ones behind the consoles now,
Yes.
because
Yes.
the old guys who are some my age, they just couldn't do it, or they had bad attitudes or whatever. And these 19-year-olds that grew up in Pro Tools and knew how to sidechain anything you wanted and were plug-in
Yeah.
heavy, as we
Yeah.
call it, now they're behind the consoles. And when you go to a CCM show, it's like, it sounds like the record. The thing is about that is, like, nobody else sounds like a record to me. So here's my soapbox.
Okay.
Like, when you go to a pop show, an A-lister, you go to see Beyonce, go see like anybody, it does not sound like the record. If you watch Coldplay on Saturday Night Live, it does not sound like the record.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad it doesn't. Like, it sounds like a live performance.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing, like, think about a band like, let's take an example. Like, Coldplay's a good example, actually. If you go back to their first album, the single Yellow,
Mm.
that sound to the latest album, it's so different. It's so different. So how, if you were like, mix our show like the record, it's like, which one, bro? There's 10, and they all
Right.
sound so different, or John Mayer or whatever.
Yes.
So with worship, take any modern big worship band's last 4 albums.
Mm.
They sound the same.
Mm-hmm. They do.
They do. They all sound the same. And I don't think gospel's like that. I don't think pop. Country's definitely not like that. Morgan Wallen's albums, listen to them, the last 4 albums. It's the biggest country guy on the planet. They all sound very different.
Yeah.
So because worship albums all sound the same, then these guys are just making it sound like the record. I don't think that's necessarily, I guess, a bad thing, because it's still good. Like, there's guys that mix like the record, and I can't do what they do.
Right.
I could probably learn. I want it to sound like a concert people feel like they're a part of, and it's a live performance and we're all doing something together.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that if you're mixing a show like it's a record that it can't do that. It's just missing this like extra emotive piece of like, the whole journey. If you think about the person buying the ticket, they go and they book daycare or babysitter, and then they go to dinner with their friends, and then they drive to the arena or wherever, and then there's all this anticipation, and they come in, and it's a cold, empty room, and they buy their shirt. Like, it's this whole experience,
Yes.
and like it needs to feel like a more than experience than the record to me, and the band on stage more. So I'm not knocking it. I'm not saying it's wrong. But I do think like the best musical experiences you can experience on the planet, like the planet, they don't sound like the records.
I have to
And
agree
the
with you.
same thing goes for broadcast mixing. Like there's been, like Saturday Night Live is a great example to me. Like there's been some killer stuff from Saturday Night Live.
Mm-hmm.
The two guys that mix that show, I'm friends with one of them. It's insanely good. It really is. And sometimes the bands on there are just kind of like, whatever. But go listen to Miley Cyrus on the anniversary show. Go listen to the Coldplay one, the John Mayer one. I mean, there's some crazy good ones, but they don't sound overprocessed. None of the drums are sampled.
Mm-hmm.
The guitars are in mono and they're panned and they're put in their places, and the vocals. So it's just a different thing. So the CC, I don't even know that I've answered your question about the 3 to 5K thing, but
Yeah, but
I
you're dropping
think
nuggets. You're dropping nuggets, though. You're dropping nuggets.
I th- I think like to kind of get on that, I'd feel like that's an experience thing. So
I think so
if
too.
you're trying to like scoop out a lot of the high mids to make room for the vocal for that like worship sound, that's kind of just all, I don't want to say mush, but it's just like 8 textures of something. So you hear drums and vocal and stuff. That's
Mm-hmm.
what worship is. And occasionally you'll get a great guitar tone, and you can get some lead stuff to really cut through. Like some of the Bethel guitar stuff is like crazy good. Those guys they know what they're doing. But I think a lot of that is like getting volume up, tuning the PA at the wrong volumes, not knowing how to shade and tune the
Mm.
PA, getting, you start cutting out too much 800 to 2K in your F6 on the vocal, and now you're stuck with 4K. Like, so I just think a lot of that's probably experience. I do
Yeah.
think it's really, really hard to get a worship band up at around 96 to 102 and it not be harsh.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do think that, because a lot of the sounds, the tracks and the keys and the vocal stuff,
Are up there.
it's up there. So, and everybody just wants to use dynamic EQ now to fix stuff that I feel like can be fixed with coaching musicians, better mic placement, better tones, and then
True.
putting the faders where they need to be. Like, I just feel like you get better outcomes. I used F6 and it saved my butt, though. A couple weeks ago in New York at this conference, I had 12 BGVs on stage, 2 worship leaders, like a dozen wedges, side fills, and everything is
Ooh,
just blasting.
man.
So it got a little dicey on me,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, okay, F6, and it saved the day. It did. It was awesome. It's not I have to have this in my vocal chain plug-in. It's
Mm-hmm.
if I can't get this where I need it to be, or to like bail me out of jail, it's like that's what it is for me. That was a lot. So I was kind of
No, that's amazing, and we'll talk about that show a little later because I really want to
okay.
dig into that some because there's an artist that was on that, a minister that was on that show that we both have experience mixing, and I'd love to get your take on how you approached it. Just because he's super unique
Yeah.
with one mic. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Let's get to some of these
Yeah.
questions in the chat. Hey Lee, question for you. Do you have any advice for someone just starting out in mixing and just getting into the sound world?
Yeah. 2 things. So I'll give you technical advice and mixer advice. I think to be a great mixer, you have to be a musician.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have to play an instrument? That's debatable. Okay. And my buddy Scott Ragsdale, I credit him for that portion of this. You do have to have some really good musical intuition to be a good mixer. I will not back off that hill. The other avenue now, and it's growing actually, is the technical side of audio. system engineering, design, it is its own thing. Like, I am not the most prolific technical guy. I know my way around all the consoles, and I can generally, um, if there's an error on a digico, I can most often like figure it out. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
if you and I can troubleshoot Dante networks, like that gives us a little bit. But if you want me to configure a network switch, I'm probably out on that, and I don't know that I'm even going to invest the time. To be honest, I'm not going
Right.
to go learn it. I'm not going to go to Dante level 2. I'm just not. But I'm going to make sure if I'm doing projects, there's people that can do that. I just think it's two different skill sets. And I think when I see people say like, no, you have to do both, I don't believe that. I actually think if you want to be the best in the world, then like pick one and know enough about the other that it doesn't get neglected,
Mm-hmm.
right? But as far as being a good mixer goes and what to do, you need to listen to as much music as you can. Like, even if this guy has been playing piano since he was 6 years old, awesome. You probably got some musical intuition. You still need to listen to music. Like, put your top 10 favorite albums in rotation in multiple genres and just start studying them. Like, for a week, only think about the kick drum. And then week 2, only think about the snare drum. And then week 3, only think about the hi-hat. And go through the whole band. Only then get to the guitars. And when you're thinking about the guitar, I want you to try and think, is this a Les Paul? Does that sound like a humbucker? No, it sounds like
Mm.
a single coil. Maybe it's a Telecaster. Oh, is that a bridge pickup or the neck pickup?
Okay.
That's the kind of detail that I'm talking about as when we think about, like, with athletes, how many, how many 3-foot putts did Tiger Woods make every day? It was over 100 every single day. So if you want to be really, really good at this, I think that's the kind of dedication it takes. If you don't have that much passion, fine. But you probably have something in your life you can be that passionate about.
True, 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 true. I think you had maybe a couple days ago. I don't know. The life on the internet moves pretty quickly. It might have been a couple days ago. You teased a video that you're doing with, I think it's SM57s on the entire
Yeah.
drum kit. So someone
Yeah.
was asking, and without revealing too much, because I don't know if that video's out yet.
I
Without
posted it.
revealing, you did? Okay.
Mhm.
Would you ever do that in a real life situation? They're asking.
Dude, I'm telling you right now, I maybe 2 weeks ago, I put this carousel post together of drum mic packages in different pricing categories.
Mm-hmm.
And I started with $1,000. And it's like, can you put together a great microphone package for 1,000? Well, that's what got me to go make this video about the SM57s. They're $70 used.
Yeah.
And some of those I used in the video had the caps broken off the top.
Wow. Okay.
So we're talking less than $600 in microphones. I was shocked at how good it sounded.
Even in the
I
kick
knew, yes, I
Wow.
knew I could get the kick to. I wasn't worried about that, honestly. I'm like, we'll make it work. I was worried about, like, can I get anything above 8K out of
Mm,
the kick drum? There's not a lot there. It's not. It's more of like 6, 5K. It's
mhm.
fine. My personal taste is I like the next octave, but I knew the toms would be fine. I had no worries about that. Obviously, the snare drum and the hi-hat I wasn't worried about either. I was worried about the overheads.
Mhm.
I was like, what's that going to be like?
Yeah.
Dude, they're so good. I
What?
was shocked at how good the overheads were. So I am going to mic a drum kit's overheads with 57s. I'm absolutely going to do it in an event. But the challenge will be, can I get the band to be okay with it with the ears?
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
if it's not something they're used to, it's a different sound. The amount of toms that came through the overheads is what blew me away. I thought it would be
Mm,
the opposite effect. Like in a condenser, you kind of get everything
yes.
because that's why you're putting a large diaphragm condenser in there, the fast response, the full frequency range. Dude, the toms sing.
Wow.
It is crazy. And I could compress them more. So I think I
Uh-huh.
had maybe 4 dB of compression all the time on snare hits and everything, and it sounded sick.
That's
I'm
crazy.
I'm I'm
I
in
gotta
on
go watch
that.
that video once we get done with this
The kick
podcast.
drum secret is you got to put it in there. You got to go through the hole, and it was like probably 8 inches inside the drum.
Mm,
So
okay.
you really do have to figure out the mic placement thing. And my buddy Anthony, who helped me with that video, he knows what I'm going for anyway. He's been around me mixing quite a bit. So he had them all set up. So I came in and he's like, what do you think about these mic placements? And I gave it a listen and I'm like, bro, I got no issues. It sounds awesome.
That's really cool, man. Let
And I
me
didn't use
see.
plugins. I just used console EQ
Yeah.
and it's also the preamps on that is all Rio. It's not Rivage
Mm,
pre's or whatever the names are, RPIO. It's the Rio, the cheap one, like 6,000
wow.
bucks for 32 channels. Yeah.
Wow. 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 Let me scroll through this chat real quick, guys. I do see some comments and questions in here. Attention to detail is what sound engineers are needed for. So we should always be listening to details on a day to day. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, George. How did you approach, or how do you approach a genre that you don't normally mix? And for example, Sound of Revival. I'm not sure what he's referring to there, but
Yeah, I know.
okay. So did you approach it? Did you tune your drums differently for CCM? How are your guitar tones, your aux keys, and etc. etc.
Yeah, so this was a funny I got this question a lot, man.
Mm,
They're like, "Oh, this is a different genre for you, so how did you?" And it threw me off. Honestly, I was like, "Why is that? Why would that be a big deal?" But I started thinking about why they would ask that. The only thing I'd ever done was like Hillsong United style worship. Okay, yeah, I guess you'd be like, "Has this guy done this type of genre?" But when I was saying earlier about like throw your 10 favorite albums and shuffle and study them all,
mm-hmm.
I've done that so much, man. That I know so much different genres of music and I'm a fan and I'm a student of it. It is no issue for me. So when I
Facts.
hear
Yeah.
Questlove snare drum, or I had a drummer tell me this once. He's like, "Hey, this snare drum is Prince, John Blackwell, and this one is Questlove." And I immediately I hear them in my head because I know
Mm-hmm.
the albums.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, we're good. So I think if you aren't exposed to that genre before, it would be a problem. Actually, it'd be like, what are you trying to do to this piano, or how? I knew with the Sound of Revival that band. I don't know that those guys they all live in America. I think they're from Africa, and it was the genre of worship there, as you know, is it's unique to Africa with gospel textures and layers, right?
Mm-hmm.
It does have a different percussive. The tempos are a little different, but they're also doing Western worship songs in their way.
Yeah.
And they did some songs I did not know, and I'm certain they were from Nigeria. So I think you just you have to look at some things sometimes like real subjectively or objectively. Like it was a 4-piece band. This song, the piano player is playing almost like a harpsichord kind of sound.
Mm-hmm.
It was really unique. It was almost percussive, and the guitar player was playing a clean strat, almost like a 1980s Kenny Loggins style strat. See,
Yeah.
like the fact that I know what that is. That's kind of you have to have that type of library in your head.
Yeah.
So I just knew automatically, like, okay, I'm going to bump some 800 in this keyboard to really get it to cut through because it's going to fight with this guitar if I don't. And I'm going to have to high pass the guitar a little higher on this song. So I think if you struggle with what would I do with this genre of music, that's an indicator of you're probably not exposed to enough music.
Correct. Yeah, 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 yeah. I agree. That's
Yeah.
something I've learned over the years too. Like even if I'm going to into a situation that I'm not very familiar with the band or the music, I would take as much time as I can to study the music. I would ask for maybe a set list ahead of time just to kind of get familiar with it. Especially
Yeah.
if I'm doing a substitute role, I just got to figure something out, man. Learn the music as quick as I can, and it really helps out. I did see another question somewhere where someone was asking you, what is, I think I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't know where that question's gone, but they were asking, what is the secret, in quotes, uh, or secret best kick mic, in your opinion? I really don't like these kind of
Okay.
questions because
So
it's so subjective.
yeah, we're so close to me being able to say this. I created some like hype and buzz around the secret kick mic I've been using. I'm beta testing for a company.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best kick mic I've ever used. I know that it sounds biased for me to say that because this company's like, "Will you help us beta test this?" But I think
Yeah.
they ask me because I'll tell them the truth. Like I'll tell you that I think the SE V7 is a terrible microphone. So I'm not afraid to
You're the
say the
second
truth.
person in past 2 weeks has said something like that.
Yeah, it's real bad. The
Ah,
new DPA kick mic,
uh,
it was my all-time favorite
yeah.
until I heard this one. And
What?
honestly, yeah, dude,
Oh
I'm
man.
serious.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and I've used it in arena, church, studio. I've used it everywhere now.
Mm-hmm.
I asked the owner or the a staff member there. I'm like, hey, when is this coming out? Because I've been telling people, and it's within the next 30 days. I think it's out, and we can talk about it. Just hang tight.
Nice, nice. There's a lot of questions about drums here, Lee. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. This is very interesting.
hmm
Why don't you compress kick drums, and how do you deal with an inconsistent drummer? That's an interesting
Okay,
question.
I don't not compress the kick mic because I have found a secret to getting the kick to sound good without it. I just don't do it, and I never
Mm-hmm.
did it. I didn't learn all the nuances of compressing a kick mic. I don't have a good explanation. It's like I've always been able to get them to work
Mm-hmm.
and not had a lot of trouble with inconsistent kick levels. I don't know. I think I just I can't say that I won't run into that, but I've been doing it a long time and haven't had to do that. If I was doing studio, I'm sure I would. It feels
Yeah.
like something everyone does. But on the drum kit, I don't compress toms. I don't compress the kick drum. I usually don't compress because they just can kind of sound funny with the condensers if the drummer's not dialed. If the drummer is unbelievable, then I can. Because a lot of it depends on his kit mix, what I call his volume from cymbals to skins and how that balance is,
Mm-hmm.
mic placement, so many things go into whether I'm going to compress the overhead. So no reason, man. If you're having good luck with it and you're thinking, but Lee doesn't and his kicks sound awesome, that doesn't mean anything. Like
Yeah.
you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you normally have a parallel group for your drums, a drum crush, as some people call it?
Yeah. I'm in the habit of creating it, and
Mm-hmm.
it's on there, and it's kind of in there sometimes. I don't know. I'd say 4 out of 5 times it's off, but it's there.
Yeah.
I have had scenarios where I'm like, I need this. I To get my drum sound, it's an API 2500 on the drum group,
Mm.
like 1 dB. It just takes a little off. It just puts like this little extra dirt on it.
Yeah.
Go back to the modern CCM drum sound, some of those guys, the whole sound is the compression in the parallel that makes it. That's where it's coming from, is this really heavily comped and scooped, sometimes dynamic EQ on drums and parallel. So
Yeah.
to get that sound, that's really what you have to do.
Let's make a left turn real quick and talk about, before I
Yeah.
get to some of these other questions, let's talk about the infamous worship snare sound and how it's
Yeah.
achieved. Is it a detune, or what's really happening with that snare sound?
Yeah.
It's very what's the word I'm looking for? It's very pronounced. When you hear it, you know it. You know what I'm talking about? Like
Oh yeah.
what drove people to get to that particular sound in worship?
Let's give credits where credit's due on this. So I think and someone please correct me or send me a message if I'm not seeing this the right way. I think this originally came from a couple different places, late 70s, early 80s.
Okay.
It's John Blackwell, that
Mm,
Prince album with the detuned snare,
okay.
and there's some Steely Dan stuff in the late 70s, Fleetwood Mac,
Love them.
detuned, real thuddy. Then it became trendy in around like 2010 for a lot of modern programmed alternative music to kind of throw it back a little.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a band called M83, and
Yes.
their big song, it's that John Blackwell snare drum.
Mm.
And then United came out with a record called Zion, and it had that drum on it. That was the drum sound.
Wow. Okay.
Then the Bethel worship, like United wasn't really, those songs aren't written to be like corporate worship, although Oceans is on that record and it blew
Okay.
up. I don't think they knew it was going to do that. That wasn't the intention. It's just an insanely good lyric and song. And then, the Bethel movement, I'd call they took it and just ran with it and took it to another level. So then I think it stuck. I think that's what happened. I think because a lot of the corporate worship songs we were singing around the world came from albums where it was sounding like that. It's a Black Beauty and it's detuned.
Ooh. Okay.
That's
that
what it
makes
is.
sense. Yeah.
You can do it with a wooden drum, but a lot of those guys were using Black Beauties because I think they already had them. Because tuned up, like the Black Beauty is like, you can make that drum kind of sound like whatever you want, nickel over brass, and just different sizes. So I think people were going to 6.5, 7, 8-inch drums, detuning them a little bit, and the drummers hate it because you hit it and it doesn't respond back.
Yeah.
Right? So, but that's where it came from. And then they put wider snares on the bottom.
Oh,
And then you
okay.
you can get into hacks of like how to get it to sound like that. Put a condenser on the bottom, 50, different things to do it. But I think that's where it came from. The first time I heard it was the Prince album and Steely Dan. The Steely Dan Fleetwood Mac is not the same as the Prince, but it's the same kind of drum sound.
Yeah, it's very distinct. You know it. You know it as soon as you hear it. Guys, I'm so happy you're bringing in so many questions. We're going to try to get as many of them as we can. We talked about the parallel drum compression. Do you just okay? So let me see. Do you just send drums through a bus and process that, and then send that to the left, right? I think he kind of mentioned that you normally just have a group and you hardly use your crush. So it's just your drum group, light processing. Walk us through kind of like your setup for your drum mixing. From the
so
inputs
all the
all the way to the group.
inputs, I do one kick mic. It was, if I can choose, I'll use the one that's about to come out. Before that, I was using a Sennheiser 901 boundary mic, flat inside by itself. It was the first mic I could get like 10K and 12K to sound pretty in a kick drum.
Yeah.
So I like that. The 91 is more like an 8K, 7K natural attack sound. Snare, top and bottom, 57, and a pencil condenser on the bottom. Toms, I like the Lawton Tom mics.
I haven't heard those, but I saw. I think True was using them or something.
Yeah,
recently.
and I'm taking
man.
credit for getting him on those. I heard about that company and I thought it was just like a trendy, like, what is this? They've been making great studio mics for a long time, and I didn't know that because I'm not a studio guy. And the Tom mic is a large diaphragm condenser with insanely good rejection. It's crazy good. So I'm able to not use triggers to sidechain in the gate or to key the gate. And they've got real big, smooth low end, like below 60 hertz and a floor tom if you want it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And you get the real pretty high end attack. I like real hi-fi pop sounding drums. Even if I'm mixing like a metal band, that type of hi-fi drum works for me. All the inputs go to a drum group. It gets a little bit of compression. Rarely will I EQ the whole group. Rarely. It happens though. And then the parallel group's there. And then the DCA for drums is assigned to the drum group so that my compression levels don't change when I turn my drum VCA up and down.
Nice.
I'll have a tom VCA on the inputs.
Let's go.
I don't like turning up 3 faders at once. Like, why do that? Just give me, now that all the consoles are in banks of 12, I've got room on the DCA side.
Yes.
So I'll do drums, drum crush, toms, and then all those go to a band bus where all the instrument buses meet, minus vocals.
Yes.
Then I have so the band is like an instrument bus and then a vocal bus separate. And then those go to matrices for PA, for broadcast, for wherever else I need to go. And I can rebalance instruments and vocals there. So they get sent to the PA the same level because I want that to be accurate as it's leaving the buses. But to broadcast, maybe the vocals are up 4 more dB or whatever. You can add crowd mics in. Like you can bump up your talking head mics and playback and walk-in music there, things like that.
Guys, I promise I'm not skipping your questions. I'm trying to go with the flow of how things are moving. I promise I'll get to all your questions. So there's a question here for you, Lee. Before you answer this question, so the question is, do you have a favorite PA system? But before you answer that, I would like to know, I'm pretty sure there are others on here who would like to know, are you a subs on Matrix guy or a subs on aux guy?
I like the full system. I'm sending left, right.
To the Matrix.
Yeah.
Nice.
I believe it's more musical.
Agreed.
The way modern PAs are done, this is not 2004 anymore, where we have to do weird things to get the impact out of subs, and mains are now going to 38 hertz. Like
It's ridiculous.
so it is not what it used to be. I did 15,000 people 2 weeks ago with 4 subs on the ground. They are front fill subs now. That's what they are.
Yep.
The subs in the air do all the work. The PA went way lower than anything you could ever imagine goes anymore. Even mid-sized boxes, you can have a 7-inch driver and it's going down to 60 hertz. Like
Yeah. It's
the
insane.
advancements in technology, I don't think you need to be mixing the subs on an aux anymore. I'm not saying I won't do it. If I went into a venue and I felt like the system's unoptimized, this isn't ideal, I would do it. I'll do whatever I have to do to make the best outcome. But with where technology is now, I just think it sounds to leave everything on the left, right, and use high pass filters.
Totally agree. So what are some of your, I'm gonna say some of, so the person asked what is your favorite, but what's some of your favorite PAs that you've been mixing on lately?
I love K2. L-acoustic K2 to me is incredible. Like, it doesn't have the cardioid technology that a lot of the newer stuff has, but just the sound out of the front of that box is unbelievable. I love GSL. KSL is really good. I love Meyer Leo. There's a lot of things I like. I'm not a like a homer for a certain manufacturer. I think a lot of the top gear makers make great stuff. I really
Agreed.
do.
Agreed. I've always
I
said
will
that.
get really opinionated when I see churches specifically install things that I think like, well, for that price range, that manufacturer pricing on this box is good at all, and you should go to somewhere else for that size venue. Or I definitely have a lot of opinions there, but I mean, overall, a lot of the flagship stuff where Meyer, DMB, L Acoustics, the Adamson stuff's really good too. Like, there's just a lot. Even the new VTX, the Vertex stuff, it's so much better than Vertex was.
Yes.
I've
Yes.
had great results with the VTX. A lot of it comes down to proper design, proper deployment, and great tuning.
Great tuning. Yeah. Totally
I've
agree.
heard K2 rigs and I'm like, what is going on here? So it's not always like, well, it's K2, it should sound good. It can sound good if that speaker is pointed at the right spot and it's in time and tuned correctly, it can sound good.
Yeah. Yeah. Matt Sales is in the building. Shout out to you, Matt, all the way in the UK. Love you guys. Um, do you ever, let's kind of talk about your master chain a little bit. Someone is asking, do you ever mix without any inserts on your master? And then once you answer that, kind of just walk us through, typically what you would do on your master chain.
Yeah. For the longest time, I had nothing on it, and now I have usually one compression plugin. I'll do the Neve MBP
Oh,
or
yes.
an API 2500. It's one of those two, and then the compression level for me, it's a really low ratio, like 1.5, 2 maybe, and the amount of reduction I'm getting is like, if I see one light on the MBP, it might be too much. Rivage, it's in compression before the reduction lights come on. Like, you can hear it. So if I see light on the MBP on the Rivage, and it's probably too much. And then 2500, that needle is just barely moving, and it's side chained to be low passed so that the kick drum doesn't trigger the compression first. Because depending on the sub design, the PA design, if I'm adding 10 dB of 60 hertz to the kick drum, it's gonna hit the compressor before anything else has a chance
Before
to.
anything else, yeah.
So I will high pass the compressor. Like on the API, the 2500, there's a button. On the MBP, there is a button. They're there for a reason. Like, and that's like, good mastering compressors have that for that reason. So everybody needs to try using those.
Very nice, very nice. You just mentioned Rivage, and someone was asking, is there anything you think is missing on a Rivage console that you would like to see added?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's gonna say the same thing here: bus to bus ability.
Facts.
You know, I didn't necessarily need it. It would make some things a little easier. I do think there's a big contingency of people engineering that don't understand delay compensation.
Yes,
So that is a problem. If you don't know what it is, you need to figure out where it's occurring on your console. Because if you don't know what that is, it's probably happening to you and it's making your mix sound worse than it should be. I did hear that that's about to come out in an update for Rivage.
okay, that would
I
be
didn't hear
cool.
that from Yamaha though. It's I
Yeah,
guess kind of a rumor. We'll see if it happens. But I think Digico gets chosen over Rivage for that reason alone a lot.
yeah, yeah. I got to agree with you on that, 100%.
Yeah.
This is a question from YouTube. I'm a church sound engineer. How do I get more clarity out of my vocals?
Take the high pass filter higher than you are and cut out more low mids than you are.
Simple,
Try that.
simple. Yeah, that's a good start.
Cut out 330 hertz a lot and high pass it to 250. See what happens.
This is a tricky question. If systems are tuned properly to have a flat response, then why do all tuned speakers sound different even though they have a flat response?
I'm not a physicist or speaker manufacturer, but if you think about that logically, they're all different components. The size of the box is different. The physics
Yeah,
of the box, the acoustics inside the box, the way it's powered is different. There's so many different things. It's be like if I have a Ford truck and a Chevy truck, why don't they drive the same?
exactly. That's a great answer. Let me see. I saw one here on my other Instagram here. Hey, any advice for getting good bass and key sounds at the well, let me try and see if I can rephrase this for you. Any advice for getting good bass and key sound at the console? Maybe cutting or boosting certain frequency. So I think this person is kind of saying that their keys, that whatever the key sounds are, and the bass are kind of clashing somewhere. So he's trying to ask
Yeah.
for some separation on those two
One
instruments.
little trick I've found that kind of works a lot of times, it depends on the sound of the bass, right? Like this is not going to work every time, but if you add 700 hertz pretty wide to a bass guitar, you get a lot of the note.
Mm,
So a lot of times I think people want to turn the bass up. They just want to turn up everything below like 120 hertz,
yeah.
be counterproductive. So if you do the opposite and add a bunch of stuff that you wouldn't normally add, like 700, and you can do the same to keys. Like if you solo the keys and you EQ it and you're like, it's kind of harsh, and then you go and start cutting out 2 to 5K and it sounds nice by itself. Then in the mix, it's gone. Well, instead of even bringing it back up to neutral, actually add 3 dB of what doesn't sound good, can make
Mm-hmm.
it come through when there's 24 things coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's dangerous. There's a fine line there, but you can do things like that.
I kind of want to go back to your our topic of new genres, approaching new genres, and we're all kind of getting to know you a little better on this podcast. And I want to talk about specifically the event that you did in New York recently. Yourself, Brian True was in broadcast, and I think Onyx Rivera was
Yeah.
at monitors. And it was a
Yep.
Nigerian event, and Nathaniel Bassi was on there. He's a very unique artist, minister, who tends to use one single microphone for his vocal and for his trumpet. I think you did
Yeah.
mention a couple of things. I'm not sure. I think you did talk about it on your Instagram after the show. Can you kind of walk us through, first of all, was that one of your first experiences with African music? And if not, how did you like it and how did you approach specifically him at that
Yeah.
conference? Because he's super, super unique with how he does his ministry.
He is super unique. I got shout out. I think he has perfect pitch.
Yeah,
Like
might be.
I heard him sing, and I didn't use any tuning, but my gosh, that dude can sing. First of all, the dynamic ability to go from so soft to full voice couple octaves up, and his pitch was unbelievable, and his trumpet pitch was also unbelievable. It was shocking how good his pitch was. I did have a 57 on a stand for him,
Okay.
but I would say 80% of the time he just used his wireless Beta 58 that he was singing in.
Yeah.
So he would be singing, and he holds the trumpet the whole time. I mean, he did worship for an hour and a half, and he just holds it in his left hand the whole time. And you never know when he's and where he's at on stage. He's all over 60-foot stage. There's a clip on my Instagram of the cameras behind me, and it's like a trumpet solo. That clip, he's using the 57.
Okay.
And I knew that because I had it on the left side of the console, and you can see me over on the left side riding that fader. When all I did to it was like high pass, I think there was some cut around 800, and then I put an LA2A on it, and I let that LA2A get hammered. Like it was like maybe 10 dB in limit.
Yeah.
But the LA2A kind of smooths the high mid out when it gets hit hard like that. And then I had a Bricasti reverb on it, and it sounded awesome.
Woo.
On the vocal, my vocal chain is kind of similar. It's EQ'd for a vocal, but then it's a 76 and an LA2A. Well, I had to gain the microphone for his singing in a way that when he put 135 dB of trumpet through it, it wasn't going to clip the channel.
Yeah.
And the limiter, though, I actually got lucky. I didn't have to change the threshold of the LA2A because with singing on the LA2A after the 76, I generally just want like 1 or 2 dB of limit.
Right.
But when he hit it another however many dB harder, the needle just went to the end.
Jeez. Oh my gosh.
Which was what I had set for the 57. So it kind of worked. So it would be hard to tell, honestly, which mic he was on. Like he could go from the beginning of the song to being on the 57 to the 58, and it actually wasn't that different. I would say no one in the audience actually. Like it would take somebody with some ears to go like, oh, it's a little, this is a little different there, a little different there. But man, I just kind of rolled with it. It was just like, buckle up,
Yeah.
It was super fun.
I think he's also, in my personal opinion, I think he's very disciplined with his instrument, and he knows the dynamic difference between his voice and the instrument, and he kind of plays with it, and so you can kind of get ready for those moments. It's super spontaneous, but at the same time, he kind of guides you as an engineer, like, hey, this is coming up, so do what you need to do out there.
Yeah.
So overall, the music overall, how did you manage? I don't know what instruments were on stage for that particular conference, but Nigerian music tends to get super percussive, lots of drums, lots of percussions, tons of vocals, some extremely loud at times. How did you manage that as a front of house engineer for that particular conference? And another question, was the audience fighting the PA in that venue at the time?
Oh my gosh. Loudest crowd I've ever mixed for. They sang the whole 3 hours. I mean, the service was 6 hours long, and people from Africa, that's normal. They know that. And everyone that's done Western church is like, what? There were 6 hours and there were 2 a day. You do the math on that. The crowd sang at a consistent 105 up to 109. I've been to see my friends mix pop shows like Ariana Grande, and the crowd screams and it goes to 113. But then it goes back down to 98 or 100, like when these teenage girls aren't singing the whole time. The crowd sang the whole time, every word, all weekend.
Man.
And I've said his name once already. I text Chris Raybould, who's mixed, Bieber and Gaga, and I'm like, what do you do when the crowd's this loud? Like I said, I don't want to mix at 110 A-weighted. And he goes, no, you have to. You have to get the PA over them.
Yeah.
So I did. It was the loudest 3-day event I've ever mixed. The meter said 120 at one point, like the peak of the night. That wasn't like a consistent thing, and that would be really dangerous, obviously.
Yes.
It was GS. So I think that's probably the loudest PA in the world.
Yes.
And it's cardioid, so that it really helped. It really, really helped. Originally, we were supposed to do that show with KSL, and I thought,
oh, wow.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It's going to be 8,000 to 12,000 people. It was a bunch of KSL, but it was a church conference, and I thought we'd be okay. Well, then the vendor switched it out just for no reason. They were just like, well, it's available. KSL's going somewhere else. You get GSL now. And I'm like, cool.
Hey, okay.
Well, now I know I had to have it. It would have been
Yeah.
bad. I
Yeah.
mean, KSL can get it too, but I think I would have. DMB won't like me saying this. I feel like I would have lost some of the low mid
Mm,
smoothness because the PA just stayed together. Like I didn't have any issue with it when it was just cruising at 106, 108. It was just
yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did I? The band was one guitar, drums, bass, two keyboard players. Basically no tracks. Like some tracks had like a percussion loop on it. Maybe two
Mm-hmm.
songs the whole weekend. There was basically no tracks. 12 vocals as a choir, all on
Mm-hmm.
their own Beta 58s. I put into a sub. I high passed little EQ, little compression on each one individually,
Mm-hmm.
and put them in a subgroup, and did a lot of processing on the subgroup. Another big
Mm-hmm.
EQ and compression, and sent them all to a verb like a choir.
Kept it
And I
together.
had it
Yeah.
with tenor, alto, soprano, so they were all together. And they blended themselves pretty well. There were wedges on stage, so
Okay.
they can all hear each other. That's one of the things I thought, like, is it actually probably good that they're on wedges so they can hear each other and they mix themselves. So that was fine. It was just a really loud stage, side fills, a dozen D&B wedges, you know.
Listen, I did, and Matt Sales is in the chat laughing at us right now, so
Yeah,
he
he
knows
is.
exactly where we're going with this. I did monitors for a show with that he was involved in as well, and I got some advice from Matt as well. He's like, be ready, just like he's saying in the chat, buckle up, it's gonna get loud on stage. And I told him, I've worked with Nigerians before, but it had been a while. Man, it was piercingly loud on stage. My goodness,
Yeah.
unbelievable. But it's a good experience. It's a great experience. Hey Byron and Lee, this is from YouTube. Hey Byron and Lee, for someone just getting into mixing and sound, any advice on places to learn or gain knowledge and experience from both online and in person? Do certifications and websites help at all? Or college?
Yeah, I'm not a big proponent of college for the sake of learning our trade. I think college is great to have uh, to build some personal discipline on one level and some business acumen or having something else, you know. But to like be a good mixer, going to a 4-year university, I don't necessarily think you have to do that. I think YouTube's
Mm-hmm.
awesome. I think there's so many resources online, but you do have to get in front of gear. I come from the church world. If you're a part of a local church, I think that's the best place for you to
Agreed.
go just immediately. You'll never be told you can't be a part of helping that out unless you're a not nice person, you know? So I think church is a great way to do that.
Agreed. Agreed. Let me see here. Do you? I don't understand this question necessarily, but I'll kind of rephrase it for it. The question is basically, do you EQ tracks per snapshot? But I guess they're asking if you are a snapshot person and do you use snapshots in your sets?
I will use snapshots to change the fader levels of instruments to to start new songs. So as a starting place, if I know the songs and if the set is going to be consistent.
Mm-hmm.
This event we're talking about with the Nigerian ministry, I didn't use any because things were so loose. There was just no way to know what was going to happen next. So
Yeah.
I couldn't. So I'm not heavy on snapshots unless it's a consistent enough experience to where it can help with transitions to make them feel smoother.
Nice. Let's
Byron, I hate to
say
do this. I do have to run in a little bit. I
no
told my
worries.
daughter I was going to take her to the mall.
No worries. We can wrap it up. Last couple questions here. Let's say you had no smart or any system engineer. What would be your approach to tune a room? Or let's say you're in a quick mode and you just got to throw and go. What would you do?
Yeah, I'll use EQ on the console for the left right, and then I'll send the subs to a different output on a matrix. I'm still not doing aux-fed subs there, right? So that I can have access to time and delay and phase. I do the same for our polarity. I would do the same for front fills and side fills, and just do it by ear, right? Like you're not going to get it perfect, but when you hit the polarity button on subs and mains, you can hear stuff happening. So, you know, if it's like, well, at 6 milliseconds of delay, it seemed to work, or you can go measure how much further behind The
Mm-hmm.
PA is the PA than the subs. It's 8 feet. Well, then you go to Google and type in the speed of sound calculator and you put in 8 feet, and then it's going to tell you, well, that's 7.2 milliseconds. I'm just making that up. But
Yeah.
so there are some things that you can do like that.
Yeah, I love that. Well, guys, Lee has to run. It's been so much fun. We hope to have you again sometime in the future. This has been
Anytime.
incredible. This has been incredible. And once again, guys, don't forget, if you are in Kenya, the Advancing Audio Masterclass is October 14th to 17th. I hope to see you there. And for those of you who are watching and would like to partner with us financially, we are raising funds. The QR code is right here. If you are happy to do something for us, we'd be very grateful for that. So Lee, thank you so much for doing this. Everybody,
You're
go
welcome,
follow
man.
Lee if you don't follow him yet on Instagram. What's your Instagram, Lee, so people can find you on there?
It's just at Lee Fields, LeeFields.
Yeah, Lee drops some golden nuggets quite often on his Instagram. It's been a source of inspiration and knowledge. So please go do that, Lee. Thank you so much. Stay on the line. Stay on while we. I said stay on the line. I'm such a radio person. Stay on so I can personally thank you once we go off air. And guys, this has been it, man. This has been it. This is probably the last podcast we're doing before the masterclass. I will definitely see you on the other side of the masterclass. So thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you very, very much. Thank you and take care.